Hello everyone, and welcome to another OpenCPN tutorial. This is the one I know you've all been waiting for. Today, we're going to cover how to make your own charts for OpenCPN. My name is David from Out Chasing Stars, and I'd like to invite you to sit back, relax, and let's talk boats. We've been on quite a journey through OpenCPN so far, and the number one question I've been asked is how do I get charts for a specific area? Now, there are some free chart sources that the chart downloader feature we covered way back in our first video can help you download and organize, and there are some commercial sources as well, like ocharts.org. But those sources don't cover everything around the world, which brings us to our third option: make your own. But first, a word from our sponsor, who has developed something so groundbreaking, so revolutionary, that it will change your life in ways you never knew you needed. If you own a boat, you know just how much maintenance it takes to keep her on the water. Figuring out what you're supposed to be doing and how often you're supposed to be maintaining it is something that I really struggled with when we first got Starry Horizons. That's why my brother Thomas and I have teamed up to develop Maintenance Right on Schedule. This is a built-from-the-ground-up solution to help you identify and track all the maintenance tasks for your boat. You can search through our marine equipment database or even build your own maintenance schedule. We'll customize the schedule for your whole boat and alert you when it's time to get to work. This is something we have put our heart and soul into, and I am so happy to share it with you guys first. You can go to MaintenanceROS.com to start a free 14-day trial, no credit card needed. And as an additional thank you to all of our viewers, I'm going to offer you a limited time discount. When you sign up, use the code OUTCHASINGSTARS to get 20% off for 6 months if you decide to continue after your trial. We all know maintenance is such a critical part of boat ownership. Let us make that part easier so you can spend more time enjoying the water. Okay, so MaintenanceROS may not change your entire life in ways you never knew you needed, but I really do think it can improve how you maintain your boat. We've already had several people reach out and tell us that we've helped them identify maintenance tasks that they didn't know they were supposed to be doing. And past experience has proven to me that those unknown tasks usually make themselves known when something breaks. So, please check out MaintenanceROS.com and let me know what you think. Now, let's get back to making our own charts, which we can do by creating MB tiles. This is a file format that stores map tiles in a single file. OpenCPN can display them, and all kinds of maps can be used to create MB tiles. Imagine having both satellite imagery and navigational charts for your cruising grounds. After this video, you're going to be able to make them. Now, I am using the word charts fairly liberally here. MB tiles are not charts in the traditional sense. They are georeferenced raster images. That means there is no embedded metadata, and there's no way to be 100% sure they're accurate. They could be off by 100 feet, 1,000 meters, or a nautical mile or more. So I strongly recommend that any MB tiles you create are used as a backup to a more traditional chart source, and of course, always, always, always keep a good visual lookout. In order to make MB tiles, we're going to need a couple additional programs beyond just OpenCPN. Unfortunately, for you Mac or Linux users, the programs we need are Windows only. But I have been able to get them to run on a Windows virtual machine. The first program we need to get is called SASPlanet. This is a free but not open source program that we'll use as the source of our charts. The second program is called Sat2Chart, and it was created by a boater by the name of Paul Higgins. Paul has put in a ton of time and effort into developing this tool for us, and if you find it useful, I've put a link in the description below where you can go donate to Paul and thank him for his work. Now, we're going to be using Paul's website to download the programs we need as well. He's already customized the SASPlanet to work with Sat2Chart, so that just makes it even easier on us. There's a link to his download page in the description below, so let's go ahead and get that opened up. First, I'm going to download the most recent copy of SASPlanet. I've got a zip file here, go ahead and get that started. Then the next thing I want to get is the most recent version of SAT2Chart. So here we've got version 16.0.5.0. Going to go ahead and download that one as well. Now, while we are good, it's downloading. Now we're here, there's a couple additional prerequisites we also want to download. A SAT2Chart is written in a programming language called Rex. So we need openobjectrex.exe, this one right here, to help execute that program. So now there is only one option available as I'm filming this, but just in case something changes in the future, make sure you're getting the 32-bit version, even if you're running on a 64-bit system. So I'm going to go ahead and start that one up as well. Now the other prerequisite is the GDAL, not quite sure how you pronounce it. It's a graphics program required to help make MB tiles. So that one is this gdal.msi. Go ahead and download that as well. All right, that should hopefully be finished here in just a second. So while that's downloading, I'm going to go ahead and get started on installing everything else. Now, I am going to demonstrate and show you how to do this, but just a warning, I am not an expert if you have any issues with installing or questions about the program. Paul is definitely your expert. So I'm going to leave another link below to the Cruisers Forum thread, where Paul is super helpful in answering questions and troubleshooting. So with that said, I'm going to start with the prerequisites, and there shouldn't be anything too complicated here. So I'm going to open up the desktop folder where I downloaded them, get some music queued up, and hit fast forward. With those done, let's get SASPlanet ready. Now, what we have downloaded is a zip file that has everything we need. Now, to keep things simple, I'm going to move this SASPlanet, open it up. We can see we've got this SASPlanet G'day 2 folder. So I'm going to move that to my C drive. That is where the default SAT2Chart wants to install, so it seems to work best if they are in the same place. I thought this was done, but apparently not. Now we're done. Okay, I'm going to open up another folder here. Do disk C, copy this over, and then I'm just going to go ahead and copy this folder into my C drive. Give that just a second. Okay, now that we have got the SASPlanet folder moved over, it is very obvious this is the one we've got from Paul because he's included this G'day 2 addendum to the SASPlanet name. Now there are other official, there's an official SASPlanet page that may have some more up-to-date versions of the program available, but you'll at the very least want to keep this copy because it's set up to work with SAT2Chart. It has been set up to run as a standalone application, so it doesn't actually need to be installed. I'm going to go ahead and open things up. We're going to find the application file, open that up so we can just kind of get a quick look so you can see what it looks like. SASPlanet works off of maps. So if we come up here to this maps menu, you can see just how many sources they're providing access to. Now there are 6 in particular that I use the most frequently. Down here under the marine maps, we've got options for Navionics Marines charts, we've got the sea map charts, and we even have aqua maps. So which charts you want, going to depend on which part of the world you're in. For now, let's go ahead and select Navionics and come on over towards where I am in the Bahamas. I'm going to zoom out, and every time I kind of zoom through here, you see that it's downloading the different tiles for the maps. Now, oh yeah, we're over on the west coast here. Let's come on over towards the Bahamas. There we go. So now we've got that. This is giving me the area we're generally going to work in today. Now I also have 3 sources of satellite imagery that I use depending on which one has the least cloud cover or the best resolution. So we'll come back up to the maps menu again. First one, probably not going to be too surprised about this, is the Google satellite view. So we use that one quite a bit. Also, Bing, surprisingly, has a really good source of satellite maps, so I use that one quite a lot. And then the last, which is probably the highest quality of all of them, is down here under this ESRI menu, and that is the ArcGIS imagery. So, you know, those are all really good sources. Check them out for the areas where you're in. Now you'll notice that as I go through all of those different maps, that some of them have this letter here by the side. That is a hotkey, so you can use to select them. I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So we'll click out and I'll hit A, and that's going to bring up the ArcGIS maps. Now, one last thing I want to cover in here before we move on, and that's down here in the left-hand corner. You see we have got a Z number. That is your zoom level. The lower the number, the further out your zoom, and the higher number, the further in your zoom. Now you can use, I think it's page up and page down to zoom in or out, but I'm going to use my mouse wheel. So now as I zoom in down here, you can see that this number increases and we get a little tighter in on the map. So, and like I mentioned earlier, as we kind of move around and change our zoom levels, the program is downloading additional tiles for that zoom level. Now, one thing you should really keep in mind is that for every additional level you zoom in, it requires 4 times the data to display. So as you get closer in, you could be facing some massive file sizes and internet data costs to download all of them. Not only for viewing the map in SASPlanet, but also for making all your MB files. But don't worry, I've got a few tricks for you to try and optimize this process. Now there's a lot more that you can play around with here in SASPlanet, including adding maps to some of your favorites, but let's leave that there for now, and we'll go install SAT2Chart. I'm now back to where I downloaded the SAT2Chart application, so let's double click on this and get started. We're going to choose the package and come on down here to install. Wait for the pop-up screen. I'm going to go ahead and go through this wizard. We'll click next. We've got some licensing agreement terms we need to agree to. Keep on going through. Now we have to choose where we want to install SAT2Chart. Again, I'm going to keep this on the default in the C drive to match where we installed SASPlanet. It just seems to work a little bit more smoothly if they're both in the same place. So let's go ahead, hit next, and then choose to install. Again, I want to be able to allow this app to make changes. So click yes. And when the wizard is finished, I'm going to go ahead and launch SAT2Chart. It's nice and selected. Hit finished, and away we go. Now, when we first start up, you're going to be getting this pop-up right here that's reiterating what I said earlier. You shouldn't be relying solely on charts created by SAT2Chart while navigating your boat. Let's go ahead and click to agree, and now we get one more offer here to watch a video tutorial if we want. And Paul has created a lot of his own video tutorials on how to use SAT2Chart, so if you're looking for more information, that would be a good place to start. For now, I'm going to say don't ask again and click no so we can stay focused. Well, one more quick distraction, I suppose. Down here at the bottom of the program, we've got a couple of buttons Paul's created that can help take you to the video tutorials or even to a help document that he's written up. Like I said, he's put a lot of effort into this, and I found those resources pretty helpful as I was learning how to use SAT2Chart. So, and one last thing, in addition to that link in the description, if you also want to donate to Paul, you've got a donate button here as well. Now, let's get back on track and update a few of the basic settings here in the program. We are here in this main tab. Let's go ahead and select where we want to save the chart files that we create. You want to keep a couple things in mind here. Number one, if we're creating very zoomed in charts, it can result in some very large file sizes. So make sure you save somewhere with plenty of storage available. Just try to keep things easy. I'm going to come back to my desktop. I'll use a document here. Now, second thing that you should remember though, is if you've already been using OpenCPN and have some charts downloaded, it may make sense to save the MB tiles in that location so you can easily import them into OpenCPN. So like I said, I'm going to try to keep things pretty easy to find and just save them to my desktop. I have already got a folder called charts here. Now what I do like to do is create subfolders for each location where I'm making charts. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new one for the Bahamas. And apparently it's time to go to sleep. We'll go ahead and create the one for the Bahamas. And now that we've got that set up, go ahead and hit open, save that as our selected folder. And we notice that our chart location is going to be saved to that Bahamas folder. So we've got that set up. Now we want to make sure that we're going to be creating our charts from SASPlanet. With the chart types we're going to be creating are these MB tiles. And we need to make sure this depth units is set to unknown. Now that should be it here for this main tab. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at options. I'm going to make sure I've got this field and buttons tips turned off. Just I don't want to be cluttering up my screen. But if you're starting out, it could be helpful to leave or turn this on. The rest, I think, is all good for now. We're not going to be using Google Earth in this process. So let's go ahead and come over to this SASPlanet tab. Now the first thing we need to do is we make sure that we tell SAT2Chart where we have our SASPlanet folder location. So let's open this up. I'm going to navigate on our C drive. Going to go ahead, click on SASPlanets. We've got one more. This is where it's located. So go ahead and hit save. And now you can see location has been updated to where it's located on the C drive. Now with that done, we have got a couple other options that we need to update. First thing is we need to make sure this invoke SASPlanet download is selected. Now this splits option, that's going to specify how many downloads will be created at one time. Paul recommends keeping this at 20 or less, 20 if you've got a good internet connection, which I currently do. So I'm going to check this and we'll hit 20. Now select multiple zooms for single MB tiles charts. That's another one we want to select. And multi-map support. We want to make sure that's selected as well, because that will let us download multiple different maps, say Navionics and Google Satellite, at the same time using the same selected area, which will save us a bunch of time. So with that, we should have everything in here that we need. So let's go ahead and get into the good stuff and make some charts. There are a few different ways you can specify which areas you want to make charts for. We're going to start off with the easiest way to ease ourselves in. Now, that being said, this is not going to be the most efficient way, so I don't use it that often, but it can be helpful to create high-level overview charts. We are back here in SASPlanet, so we're going to come to the menu bar. We're going to select the map that we want to use to make our charts. For this first one, let's go ahead and let's just use some Navionics charts. Now, what we're going to need to do is start navigating to the area we want to make the charts for. Since I'm here in the Bahamas, let's go ahead and say, let's get a good view here up in the Abacos. So now the method that we're going to use is going to take the entire visible screen and make a chart for it. So that's why I'm recommending that you only use this method for high-level overview charts, because we selected that multiple zooms for single MB tiles chart option when we set up SAT2Chart. So you could tell the program to make charts at a very detailed zoom level, but there's a lot of extra stuff around here that we just don't really need. So things like the ocean, not really essential. So we would be creating large files and using internet data needlessly. So I will show you how we can focus in on a specific area in just a bit. But now that we've got the area selected that we want to create a chart for, we're going to go ahead and come back to SAT2Chart. And for this method, we're going to want to go ahead and make sure here on this main tab that we have got tile option selected. That's going to let the program break the image into smaller tiles with more details. Now we are going to need to go ahead and give this chart a name. Let's go ahead and say Abacos Overview. And it's still using that same Bahamas chart folder that we have selected earlier. So we are all ready now. Let's go ahead and come down and hit Create Chart. Now SAT2Chart is going to start doing its thing and then eventually give us options for zoom level and which maps we want to use. It does this when we're doing this option kind of by tiles. So you can see the number of tiles. If we create 4, it's going to be an equivalent 11 zoom level. So I think that's going to work pretty well. And let's go ahead and come down and we'll stick with our Navionics charts to keep this basic. Make sure that's still selected. And then we'll hit OK and sit back and watch as Set to Chart sets everything up for you. Now you're going to notice there's a lot of windows popping up and things moving around and options being selected. That's normal for how this program works. So I'm just going to let it keep going until it's finished. Okay, it's done, and we've got a little bit of information here in the main display window. See how long it took to create, confirmation of where the file is stored right there, and I'm very quickly going to open up the folder where I'm storing these charts so that we can just make sure that we have got them. Here, charts, Bahamas, sure enough, Abaco's overview, Navionics marine charts. So we have our MB tiles file. Let's go ahead and move on into OpenCPN and set up the program to view this file. Gonna change over here to OpenCPN. Now we're gonna need to come into our options menu, over to the Charts tab, and for this tutorial, I'm coming into OpenCPN with no charts at all. So we're going to need to add a directory where we've saved the chart we just made. Add directory. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my desktop, down here to the Bahamas folder and hit Open. Now, I personally like to add each location folder individually rather than that top level folder, so I have a bit more control if I want to remove a selected area in the future. So we're going to go ahead, come down, hit OK, and then back to our chart window. Now, I'm not currently in the Abacos, so I'm going to have to scroll just a little bit, and you can see we've got a nice rectangle. Zoom in. Now, we've got some chart information, which is pretty exciting. Now, it is a rectangle because, like I said, it made a chart from my entire screen. And down here at the bottom, we have got a bar which has a little bit more information about the chart file, which will be very helpful when we start adding different kinds of maps. Now, I do want to note, you can zoom in on this chart, but it doesn't have any additional information at these lower zoom levels, so it's going to quickly become unusable if you're trying to navigate or need more details. Now, we'll talk about how we can fix that in a bit, but for our next run through, I want to introduce the concept of polygons. Polygons may bring up some sort of nightmare memories from a geometry class at some point, but I promise you it's not going to be that bad. To set them up, we're going to come back into SASPlanet, and we're going to come to the Place Marks menu, and we're going to add a polygon. Now, I use this to be more specific for the areas I want to download charts for. So before, where we had to download our entire screen, we can use these polygons to specifically tell SAT2Chart where we want to actually make these charts. So we're going to start, we're just going to click on the map, and I'm going to do this very quickly around the Bahamas and say, rather than do just the Abacos, I want to go ahead and get, just about all of the Bahamas here. Now again, this is a pretty large area, so if I had a lot of time and internet, I might do more detailed zooms, but for this, we're going to go ahead and just start here at a high level for easing into this concept again. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save for this polygon, and we're going to give it a name and call this our Bahamas overview. Hit OK, and now we have created this polygon here within SASPlanet, but we need to export the information so that we can use it within SAT2Chart. You come back to the Place Marks menu, come to the Place Mark Manager, and now we can come to this Bahamas overview, which again is a polygon. And there's a couple different ways to export it. There is the export button down here, but you have to be a little careful because if you have several different polygons or paths or place marks here in SASPlanet, just hitting this export button will export all of them. So what I usually do is just come up and export using this save icon here, and that will just export the one that we have selected. So go ahead and export this. Now again, on my desktop, I have got a polygons folder all set up. So I'm going to go ahead and save that here. Now there are a few different file types that you can use to export as. do a drop-down menu. I have seen tutorials that can get a Google KMZ and a GPX file format to work. I've had a few issues with those, but the KML file seems to be the most successful for me. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to save this as a KML file. We'll go ahead and hit save. And that's all we need to do to export that polygon out of SASPlanet. So next, we need to come back into Sat to Chart. This time in Sat to Chart, let's move that over here to the center of the screen, we have got a right-hand side menu, which is our advanced options. This is where we can tell Sat to Chart where the polygon we just created is located, and they can use that to then download the charts for that area. So I'm going to go ahead and try to select, actually I need to uncheck tile first, which is then allows us to get the polygon. Don't forget to do that. We're going to go ahead and then choose where we have downloaded our polygon here on my desktop, back to the folder, and we can select the Bahamas overview. Hit finished. Now this is asking us if we want to give this a new chart name. So by default, it's going to use the KML file name for the chart that it's creating, but we could choose to rename that here if we wanted to. If we just have one polygon or KML file that we're using, it will replace the name of that KML file. But if we're doing more than one polygon or path, and by hitting this add button, putting a chart name in here would amend the name rather than replace it. So for now, we're just going to stick with the one. We'll hit OK, and things are going to go ahead and get started. This time, we're actually going to get a more detailed zoom levels and options for which maps we want to create. So again, I want to keep this one at a pretty high level. Well, let's go ahead, let's just keep it at the 11 and keep things pretty consistent. But let's get a little crazy here. Let's go ahead and do navionics, and why don't we go ahead and do some C maps as well. Show you what it's going to look like having two different options. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and we'll go ahead and let Sat to Chart do its thing. Sat to Chart has now finished making those charts for us. So once again, let's go ahead and come back into OpenCPN. And this time, because we have already got the directory added, I just need to tell it to scan the charts and update the database. Go ahead and hit apply. Let it go ahead and do its thing. Now we'll hit OK. And as I zoom out of here, you can see we now have an area that matches the polygon shape that we created. And it has both, say down here on the bottom, we're now going to have three different bars because we'll have one for the area up in the abacos that we had downloaded previously. And then we have got two. One here, this is going to be our CMAP charts, and then one over here for our navionics charts. So if I select this one, it's going to have, well, I have to unselect the CMAPs. Just wanting to prioritize that one. So unselect the CMAPs and navionics pops up. If we then go ahead and reselect the CMAPs, we can zoom in and start to compare what the different things look like. And that's super helpful and can be a little bit of an extra just safety, making sure that things are lining up as they hopefully should be. Now, what this still does is this is just an overview, but it is a better and quicker way to give us an overview of a large area. The last thing I want to do is we're going to use this polygon concept one more time, and we're going to go ahead and create a more detailed area to look at. At this time, let's go ahead and come down. I'm down here in Georgetown here off Great Exuma Island. So we can use this polygon feature again. If it will download charts we're looking for. Maybe my internet isn't quite as fast as I thought. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and use the polygon one more time and create a more specific area around Great Exuma Island. This would be, a case of if you're coming somewhere and want to just get the coastline so you know where to anchor, or if you have a specific anchorage that you want to get really super close and detailed on, this would be the way to limit how much data and file size you're actually getting. So let's go ahead, come back to place marks. We'll go to add polygon. This time, I'm just going to come quickly here around some of Great Exuma. We'll call that good. Go ahead and save this polygon again. We'll call this Great Exuma. Go ahead and hit OK. And now I do want to show you how you can do multiple polygon downloads at one time. So let's go ahead and, let's just come over here to Conception Island. This is always a favorite place of ours. And we'll create one more polygon here around Conception Island. Save this one as Conception. Hit OK. And now we'll come in and export both of them using this place mark manager. And again, I'm going to go ahead and highlight each one individually and use this export selected place mark. Come back to where I want to save them in my polygons folder. We're going to go ahead and do this as another KML file, and we'll leave it as Conception. Hit save, and then we'll do Great Exuma, export to selected place mark, or polygon in this case. And again, we'll leave it as this KML file, leave it as Great Exuma, and hit save. So now those are ready. Let's go ahead, pop back into Sat to Chart, and we're going to go ahead and add one of those polygons at a time using this advanced menu. So this time, we're going to go ahead and do Conception first, and then we'll use this Add button to go ahead and add Great Exuma. Now, once we've got all the different polygons added that we want, go ahead and click OK again, and that's going to kick things off. Once again, we have now got the zoom levels that we want to use, and because I'm limiting the area that we're targeting, I'm going to go ahead and select a couple closer zoom levels. Like 15, 16, 17, 18, those are usually some pretty good detailed zoom levels. Let's go ahead and say, well, let's go ahead and get a couple different ones. We'll get 17 as our zoomed in for now to save a little bit of internet, try to get this a little bit faster. And we'll also do, say, a 14 just so we can compare. And this time, rather than doing CMaps and Navionics, let's go ahead, let's just say we're going to get some Aqua maps, but then let's also get this ArcGIS imagery so you can see what the satellite imagery is going to look like. Got everything selected. I want to make sure my zoom, apparently might suggest doing your zoom second, looks like. Go ahead and select our 17 zoom scale again, and we'll click OK. Let things go off. Now, as you kind of get a little bit more use into this and get some idea of the zoom levels that you find useful, also how much data you're willing to spend creating these, time, file sizes, all those things, you can kind of get a better idea of what areas you want to select and what zoom levels you're going to want to make as well. Typically what I do is if I have a good internet, I'm going to just go ahead and select a decent amount of the coastline, and I'm going to get almost everything, probably zoom level 10 through 18, so that I have all kinds of information no matter where we're going. That might be for just kind of one map, and then say if there's a couple areas I'm particularly interested in, few islands I know we're going to be visiting, then I can focus in on those and get, more marine charts, additional satellite imagery, those sort of things. So you'll kind of figure out your own way of what's going to be useful for you, a nice mix between data usage, storage, all that fun stuff. But for now, we'll go ahead and let this keep running and come back when it's done. And this one took a little bit longer, 6, almost 7 minutes, which is not super long, but like I said, the more zoomed in we get, the more data has to be downloaded. So we're going to double check real quick that it has downloaded appropriately. Come back to my charts in the Bahamas, and now we have got quite a few extra ones. Got our Conception, the Aqua maps, Conception, the ArcGIS imagery, and same for Great Exuma. So let's go back into OpenCPN, and we'll add those back into my charts options. We've already added the directory, so we're just going to go ahead and scan the charts and update the database. Hit apply, and that's done. OK. And now we have got additional options. So as I zoom in, we can start to see the Aqua maps for Great Exuma. Also, if I move over towards Conception, we've got Conception Island as well. So like I said, you can see that you can do 2 at once. Now, you'll kind of notice as I zoom out here, this is, I think, the 14 zoom level. And then as we get in closer, OpenCPN will go ahead and say, well, we've got this more zoomed in area, we can switch to that one. It may not be that much more zoomed in around Conception, so hopefully we've got more here. Great Exuma we can take a look at. So you can see kind of wide data, and the further I zoom in, there we go. Now we've got more detail. So just having more zoom levels will just kind of make that zoom in a bit smoother, even if it does take a bit of data. And now I can go ahead and unselect the aqua maps, and that means that the satellite imagery pops up. And so if we move around, we have satellite imagery all across Great Exuma, and you can start to see, yep, we've got some bommies out there, we've got some coral you might want to avoid, definitely don't hit that over there. So this is just so amazing. You can create whatever charts you need anywhere in the world. It's just going to take some time and a bit of effort. All right, that is going to wrap up this video on how to make your own charts in OpenCPN, or for OpenCPN to be more accurate. Another huge thank you goes out to Paul Higgins for all of his work on Sat2Chart and making it available to us. And if you found this process useful, definitely consider sending him a donation to say thank you. I think this video is probably going to be the culmination for our OpenCPN series. So I also want to say thank you to you for joining me on this journey. OpenCPN is such a powerful tool, and I hope you now have a better understanding of how to use it and will use it on your boat. And since we're wrapping up, let me just say one more time that I do hope you go check out my latest project, Maintenance Right on Schedule. If you're interested in OpenCPN, you've likely got a boat, and I do truly believe that MaintenanceROS can help you keep your boat properly maintained and on the water. So that'll be it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you another day, another bay. Bye, y'all.